How the hunter saved the king from the wicked kingsmen. Amagu village was a peaceful and well-known place. Their ruler, King Uzonna, was loved by everyone because he was a kind man. He ruled with wisdom, and his wife, Queen Adama, stood by him with respect and love. They had 3 children, Obinna, Akachukwu, and their little sister Adiko. King Uzonna had a special gift. He was a healer, just like his father before him. He treated people freely and never collected money. His late father had warned him never to take payment, because the gift was from God. People from far places often came to the palace for help. Some of his kingsmen did not like this. They believed the king should charge money, especially to visitors from other villages, but King Uzonna refused. Every night, the king's family ate together. One evening, after their meal, young Adiko asked her father to tell them a story. King Uzonna smiled and agreed. He told them about a faithful servant and an unfaithful one. The faithful servant obeyed, worked with honesty, and did the right thing even when his master was away. But the unfaithful servant did the opposite, avoiding work and behaving poorly. In the end, the faithful servant received a great blessing, while the unfaithful one faced the result of his choices. When the king finished, he encouraged his children to always choose good. They thanked him and went to sleep. Very early the next morning, Queen Adama woke up disturbed. She had seen a troubling dream where some men gathered around the king in a threatening way. She told her husband. King Uzonna held her hands and said, "My dear wife, since this has been revealed, all we need to do is pray." And they prayed together. Not long after, the king discovered something troubling. The village drunkard, Akidi, came to the palace and told him that some kingsmen had secretly been collecting money from people who came for treatment. The king was shocked and angry. He called the men involved and warned them strongly. They should return everything they took. He forgave them but said that if they repeated such behavior, the punishment would be severe. The kingsmen left angrily. One sunrise, a badly injured young man was brought to the palace. He was a hunter from Ogudu village, and he had been attacked by a wild animal in the forest. King Uzonna stopped his meeting with the elders and immediately attended to him. The hunter's people thanked the king and returned to their village. The hunter stayed in the palace for a month until he recovered. When he was strong again, he thanked the king and queen. He offered to pay for his treatment, but King Uzonna refused. "My work is free," he said kindly. "It is a gift from God." The hunter bowed deeply, amazed by the king's goodness, and returned home. Meanwhile, the kingsmen King Uzonna once warned were still angry. Instead of changing, they planned something terrible in secret. The month of August arrived. In Amagu Kingdom, August was special because of the New Yam festival, held every 20th market day. The whole village prepared. Men brought yams and fowls, women decorated the palace, and the youth cleaned the community. Visitors and traditional rulers from other villages began to arrive. 2 days before the festival, the hunter from Ogudu returned with gifts, a live cow and 50 tubers of yam. The king and queen were overjoyed, and the hunter felt honored that they accepted his gift. At 3 p.m., he told the king he must return to his village to prepare for the festival. The king blessed him. As the hunter walked through the forest on his way home, he saw some of Amagu's kingsmen digging a large pit. He almost approached them to ask what they were doing, but something warned him to stay back. He hid quietly and listened. When he heard their secret plans against the king, he was shocked. He promised himself he would protect the king at all cost. When he returned to his village, he gathered 5 of his fellow hunters and told them everything. They agreed immediately to help him save the king. Finally, the festival day arrived. The palace was full of people. There were traditional rulers, elders, visitors from far villages, and many masquerades. Women danced beautifully, children laughed, and the air was full of joy. After the celebration ended, the king gave gifts to all visiting rulers, as their custom required. Then, according to tradition, the king, the chief priest, and the most senior kingsmen went to the forest shrine to offer thanks for the harvest. The hunter and his 5 friends followed quietly, hiding among the trees. At the shrine, the chief priest completed the prayers and returned to his temple. Now the king and the kingsmen were alone. As they walked back through the forest, they reached the spot where the pit had been dug. Suddenly, the kingsmen grabbed the king. King Uzonna was confused. "What are you doing?" he asked. But they held him tighter and dragged him toward the pit. Before they could carry out their plans, the hunter and his friends rushed out of hiding. With courage and strength, they stopped the kingsmen and rescued the king unharmed. Following the king's command, they took the kingsmen back to the palace. The king gathered all the villagers. The whole community watched as the kingsmen confessed. They explained how they planned to harm the king and pretend it was caused by an animal, so no one would suspect them. The villagers were shocked and disappointed. The king pronounced judgment immediately. The kingsmen were banished from Amagu for their wrongdoing. Everyone thanked the brave hunter and his friends. The king rewarded them greatly, and the whole village praised their courage. King Uzonna then reminded the villagers, "One good turn deserves another. Kindness returns to the person who gives it." And from that day on, the people of Amagu remembered how a simple act of kindness saved their king's life.